Hi, my name is Masego Kwenamore. I'm 46 years old. Actually, I'm turning 46. I'm an author. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an inspirational speaker. And I'm a mother of 3 kids. I'm from Klerksdorp in the Northwest. I'm here to share my story. Basically, I'm sharing my gambling addiction. In 1998, I got hooked into a machine, into a casino. But it didn't really start like from going to the machine. Actually, when I grew up, I used to love beautiful things. I used to look at the magazines and I wanted all the beautiful things in this world. So when I walked in the casino one day in 1998, I saw somebody winning. And I was like, wow. So it means my problems are gone. I'm going to be a millionaire as well. So I started playing, but I lost. And then after losing the money, I went to the bank and then withdraw everything that I had and go and play. I played and lost all of it. But I couldn't hold myself. The thought of seeing somebody winning, I was like, no, I must get the money and go back there. And I started, every month when I get the money, I go there, sleep there, come up until I don't have money anymore. When I couldn't have money anymore, I would sell stuff in the house. I will borrow from the loan sharks. I will borrow from the bank, credit card, loan, bank overdraft, up until I couldn't, borrow anywhere anymore, because now I owe the loan sharks and I end up turning into taking whatever I can take. One day I took my laptop, my work laptop, and just pawned it as well. And that was more like my turning point, because I was not telling people that I am being hooked to this game, because I wanted money. And I wasn't even aware that my being hooked, it's like a sickness, And then one day I went to the doctor and I told the doctor, I pawned my laptop and I can't go to work without laptop because that's my working tool. So the doctor said to me, what happened? I started narrating the story to the doctor and he said, you know what? I got families that lost everything. Please stop this thing. And tell your family, tell your husband that you've got a problem. Give them your card. And I went back home. He gave me a sick note not to go to work. And then I went back home. I told my husband for the first time that, you know what, I've got a problem. Every time when you see me not having money, because I'll make a lot of excuses. Every month, I will lie. After getting paid, I will either say, I've been robbed. Somebody took my card at the ATM. That is why I don't have money. So my husband was wondering, what kind of a person is this who's always having a bad luck? Every month bad luck. Even my daughter will be like, mommy, throughout the month when you don't have money, you are a sweet person, but immediately you got paid, you are a horrible person because you don't care about anybody. You just go to the casino. What she didn't know is a casino. You just go wherever and come back and then you don't have money. And I basically lived like a hobo. I couldn't do my hair. I couldn't buy myself clothes. It was so painful. But I kept having that hope that, one day I will win. And what makes it worse is because you've lost so much. Because over the years, I end up realizing that I've lost more than 300,000. And I never really won a big money. I mean, the highest amount that I won was 12,000 that I managed to walk out. Because what happens sometimes is you get in, you put in a 20 rand, and then you get 3,000. But because of the greed and the hope that you'll get $1 million later on, or because you have lost so much, you want to recover what you have lost, you take that 3,000 and play it again, So it was painful, I lived a lie. I mean, at work I was this hotshot professional, And then at church, I was this woman of God, and nobody knew what I was struggling with. Because when my husband go to church, one day he put the money and say, "My love, this money is not my money. Please don't use it." I say, "Okay, my love." And then he went to church. When he went to church, the trigger came. Go to the casino and play quickly. Maybe you'll come with a lot of money, And then I went there, and I lost all of the money. And I mean, what will you say to your husband when you come back? I had to come up with lies. So I kept on lying and lying. And I hated the lie because it was just not a good thing for me. Keep on lying, the guilt of not being honest to people that are around you. And one day, that was 2012, I was working in Free State, and then I got paid. I was earning about 20,000 after deduction at the time. So I went to the casino after I got paid. That night I lost all my money. And that was the day I said to myself, I cannot be living like this. This thing cannot be my master. I am the master. I should stop this thing, And that day I just decided, what? Let me go home. And now I've lost everything. I have to go home. I was in Bloemfontein. I have to drive to Flagstop. No petrol. When I get home, I have to give my kids money for whatever, and my sister the money for taking care of my kids. And now I don't have. And I'm like, no. What kind of a life is this? One cannot carry on like this. This has to stop. Because in the past, I tried praying. I tried doing whatever you can do. I went for counseling, but it never really worked because for me, being Odaki, counseling, it was not our thing because the counselor will be asking you, tell me your background. And it was like waste of time because I've lost so much money. So I didn't want somebody to be asking me about the background and stuff. I wanted money. I wanted to pay my debts. I wanted to be a big shot. I wanted to drive that Slashla, So now you asking me about my background, tell me about your mom. I decided I'm not going to go to the counseling. I'll beat this thing, whatever it is. I used to call it a demon because I just didn't understand what was going with me. I mean, somebody who got a financial experience, financial background, and somebody who's even working with books, but wasting her money like that and being so useless and reckless, So I just said, what? Whatever demon it is, I just have to beat this demon. And to God be the glory. After that 2012, after losing that 20,000, I stopped going to casino. I started being responsible with my life. And every time when the trigger comes, I just remind myself what I've been through. I remind myself, in 2014, 2004, I was so hopeless and I wanted to kill myself. I didn't want my daughter to be left alone. So I said, what? Because I'm so useless, let me just kill myself, but I cannot leave my daughter alone because I grew up without a mother. I know the pain of living without a mother. So I tried and buy poison, pour it into my daughter's ice cream, watch her eating it. Fortunately, she didn't eat it. She said, no, mommy, I cannot eat this. And then she threw the ice cream thing away. And I just look at her and I'm like, you know what? If she doesn't want to leave this world, let me rather leave. I'll leave alone. I'll leave her. She will struggle like I struggled as a teenager, alone. And I took the poison myself. It didn't even waste time. After taking a poison, within 5 minutes, I had to run to the bathroom and I couldn't stand up. And then I called my daughter. She realized that her mother is like dying, sort of. And then she ran and called the neighbors. They called 911 and then they took me to the hospital. The hospital was not far from where I was staying. So got in there and then the paramedics, they could immediately recognize that it was poison. They drained it and then I was in ICU for a day. And and to God be the glory. I didn't die. Here I am testifying what I've been through. And I stopped my life continued. I started focusing on my work. When I feel like going to gambling, I started reminding myself that it didn't help me. And I started, loving myself, because when you love yourself, you can't hate yourself. So I started, transforming how I used to look at life. Change the way I used to forget about how society judges people, to forget about what you need to have when you are at a certain age. Because I was competing with myself. That was the problem. I was competing with myself. I told myself, at this age I should be having this, at this age I should be having this. Hence I was hooked. I ended up being hooked to casino. And I stopped. I started going to work. My gambling became a work. 7 o'clock I'm at work. Sometimes I'll leave work at 7 o'clock. Work, head, and other extramural activities that I was focusing on the artist, managing them, giving back sort of to people. And I used to say to myself, it's better to help somebody than to waste my money at the casino. So I found fulfillment when I was helping other people, and I stopped gambling. And I said to people most of the time, it's not even about the addiction, the gambling addiction on its own. It's us, we people, anybody can be addicted. And with gambling addiction, it's terrible because the society, they cannot tell. The person is not written. Unlike alcohol, unlike the drugs, you can see the person. With gambling, anybody can be hooked into that, whether you are religious, irreligious, whether you are educated, when you are uneducated, anybody can be affected because it's not written. And why most of the people end up killing themselves is nobody will listen to you. How do you tell people that you are wasting your money? Nobody will really take you seriously that you are wasting your money, and worse, you are even an accountant or an auditor wasting your money like that. So it's the most painful thing, and the society, they are not even aware of the danger of it, and many people are actually going through it. We got divorced with my husband, but it was not because of the gambling. We had our own challenges. Actually it was me mostly, because all I wanted was a wedding, not a marriage, That is why I always dreamed about having a fairy tale wedding. So it was all about the wedding. So after getting married to the guy, it was not much, because I got a wedding. Even though it was not a fairy tale wedding, but I changed my surname. So we got divorced, and I've got 2 beautiful kids with him. And my kids just adores me, and I also adore them, So my firstborn, who I wanted to kill, she's 25 years old. She doesn't mind me sharing the story as well. That's why I say I wrote a book. And on my book, there's a chapter on gambling addiction. And I've been doing talks about the gambling, the danger of it. On that book, it's all about my life, from being a village girl to being a career woman. But on that is a chapter about my gambling addiction, where I explain what I have been doing, all the horrible things, all the lies, because when you gamble, there's so much lies, because you can't just go to people and say, I want money. There must always be stories. So it's there on the book, and I've been going to different places as well, talking about the gambling. And the response is amazing, because at first I thought people would judge me because being a Christian and talking about stealing, everybody hearing you saying you're stealing, you're doing all sort of things. But to God be the glory, I just realized that so many people are suffering from the same thing. The pastors came to me and say, you're lucky you came out, because some of us, we're still struggling and we cannot tell. You find even doctors will be like, this thing is not easy. How did you beat it? But it's difficult for me to say to people, do this, because it has to come from within. Yeah, and then I was on the advert about this gambling thing. I started getting calls from Kenya, Namibia, all over. People suffering with the same thing. And I was like, yo, can you imagine? People, they think addiction is all about drugs and alcohol, but you find that so many people are struggling from these addictions. Something just needs to be done. People need to be educated about these things, especially from early ages. Then I started a movement called Bend Don't Break, where we're trying to, equip and skill communities, to live, strive, and thrive, not just to exist, but to thrive in life, using my experience and being truthful to myself. Because most of us, we are wearing masks. If you can remember, I said at church, I was this woman of God. And then at work, I was this professional, and I was wearing a mask. So a lot of people are wearing a mask, and I said, you know what, it's about time that I came out. And when you share your story, when you share your Aka truth, people they become drawn to what you are saying, and they can see themselves. Because I always say to them, it's happened to me, but not for me. Somebody needed to hear the story. Somebody needed to change because of my story. And I'm so grateful that it changed so many people's life. And as I'm saying to you, I normally tell people, I don't advise. I just share my stories. Then you will learn from my story. Because if I advise you, you end up depending on me. If it's not working, you'll blame me tomorrow. But if I share my story, my experience, you can learn from my experience using you, being you, instead of, doing whatever that I say I've done. Somebody else will say, prayer doesn't work for me. Somebody else will say, it works for me. So I don't advise. All what I'm telling you is I'm sharing my story, and in that of my story, look at yourself and start getting your life in order. Life is not all about getting everything at the same time. You can work. Those fancy things that I wanted, at a later stage, I managed to go to my holiday destination that I always dreamt of. So you can always achieve whatever you want if you are patient and work. Just be persistent in what you're doing. Hi, I'm Masego Kwenamore, and I have been through the most.